At some point, a lot of men wake up and realize something feels off. Not dramatic, not broken, just disconnected. You're functioning, you're showing up, you're doing what you're supposed to do. But the version of you that used to feel sharp, grounded, confident, that guy feels distant. And the mistake most men make is thinking something is wrong with them. Nothing is wrong with you. What's happening is simpler and harder to admit. You've been living out of alignment for longer than you realized. You've been reacting instead of choosing, adjusting instead of leading, giving energy to people, habits, and expectations that slowly pulled you away from yourself. Not all at once, quietly, over time. This video isn't about finding yourself in a motivational, surface-level way. It's about understanding how men lose themselves, why trying to fix it often makes it worse, and what actually brings you back to center. Because feeling like yourself again isn't about becoming someone new. It's about shedding everything that isn't you. If you've been feeling flat, restless, or disconnected without knowing why, stay with me. This will make sense of more than you expect. Most men don't lose themselves in one dramatic moment. It doesn't happen because of a single failure, breakup, or bad decision. It happens slowly, through a series of small compromises that feel harmless at the time. You adjust your behavior to keep the peace. You lower your standards to avoid conflict. You silence parts of yourself because it's easier than standing firm. And before you know it, the man you used to recognize feels distant. You start living reactively instead of intentionally. Your days are shaped by other people's moods, expectations, and demands. You give more than you should, tolerate more than you respect, and explain yourself more than necessary. Not because you're weak, but because you're trying to maintain connection, approval, or stability. Over time, that constant adjustment disconnects you from your instincts. This is where men get confused. They think they're burnt out, depressed, or unmotivated. But what they're really experiencing is misalignment. Your values and your actions are no longer matching. Your body knows it before your mind does. You feel restless, flat, irritated for no clear reason. You lose enthusiasm for things that used to matter. That's not laziness. That's your internal compass telling you something is off. The more you ignore that signal, the louder it gets. You numb it with distraction. Work, gym, social media, short-term pleasure. Anything to avoid sitting with the discomfort of realizing you've been living someone else's version of your life. And the longer that goes on, the harder it feels to remember who you were before all the compromises began. Feeling lost isn't the failure. Staying disconnected because it feels familiar is. Once men realize they don't feel like themselves anymore, the instinct is to fix it fast. New routines, new goals, new identity. You tell yourself you need to be more disciplined, more confident, more productive. You pile structure on top of a life that already feels heavy, hoping effort alone will pull you out of it. But here's the trap. You can't build your way out of misalignment by adding more pressure. Most self-improvement advice skips the part where you subtract what doesn't belong. So instead of feeling clearer, you feel more exhausted. You're doing more but feeling less. You're improving on paper, but still disconnected internally. This happens because the problem was never a lack of discipline or motivation. The problem was direction. You were moving, just not toward yourself. And when you try to fix that by forcing change without understanding what pulled you off course, you end up performing improvement instead of actually realigning. Men get stuck here for years. They confuse busyness with progress. They chase intensity because they think feeling something, even stress, is better than feeling numb. They adopt identities that look strong but don't feel true. And every time the emptiness comes back, they blame themselves instead of questioning the path they're on. Real alignment doesn't come from pushing harder. It comes from honesty, from asking uncomfortable questions, from admitting that some of the roles you're playing, the relationships you're maintaining, and the habits you're defending are the very things keeping you disconnected. You don't need to become someone else. You need to stop being who you're not. Trying to fix yourself keeps you stuck because it assumes you're broken. You're not. You're just buried under layers that were never meant to be permanent. Feeling like yourself again doesn't come from a breakthrough moment. It comes from a quiet shift in how you live. You stop asking, "How do I become better?" and start asking, "What am I doing that isn't true to me?" That question changes everything. This is where men reconnect with themselves, not by adding more, but by removing what's misaligned. You pull your energy back from places where you're constantly explaining, proving, or shrinking. You stop overcommitting. You stop performing versions of yourself that were built to be accepted rather than respected. And slowly, your instincts come back online. You start trusting your internal signals again. When something feels off, you don't rationalize it away. When something drains you, you don't push through out of guilt. When something aligns, you feel it immediately. Calm replaces tension. Clarity replaces noise. That's not confidence. That's congruence. This is also where men realize that peace isn't passive. It's earned through boundaries, honesty, and discipline. You don't chase motivation. You protect your focus. You don't look for permission. You move according to your values. And as you do, the version of you that felt lost doesn't need to be found. He reemerges naturally. Feeling like yourself again isn't about returning to who you were years ago. It's about becoming who you are when nothing is pulling you out of alignment. When your actions match your values. When your life reflects your standards. That's when things stabilize. Not because life gets easier, but because you finally stop fighting yourself. Feeling like yourself again isn't about reinventing your identity or chasing some past version of who you were. It's about returning to center, stripping away the roles, habits, and compromises that pulled you out of alignment in the first place. When you stop living reactively and start living deliberately, clarity replaces confusion. Calm replaces restlessness. Direction replaces noise. This isn't an overnight shift. It's a series of small, disciplined choices made consistently. Choosing honesty over comfort, alignment over approval, and self-respect over familiarity. And as you do, you don't just feel better. You move differently, you think clearer, you carry yourself with quiet certainty. If this resonated, like the video so it reaches other men who feel disconnected but don't know why. Comment what part hit home for you, and subscribe if you're committed to building a life that feels grounded, aligned, and true to who you actually are.